Welcome back to another amazing video from 8 Recaps. Today, we will recap an American science fiction action film called John Carter from 2012. Civil War vet John Carter is transplanted to Mars, where he discovers a lush, wildly diverse planet whose main inhabitants are 12-foot-tall green barbarians. Finding himself a prisoner of these creatures, he escapes, only to encounter Dejah Thoris, Princess of Helium, who is in desperate need of a savior. Can John help Princess Dejah? Will John find his way back to Earth? Let's find out. But before we begin, beware of spoilers. Watch out and take care. And I hope you enjoyed the video. In 1881, Edgar Rice Burroughs attends the funeral of his uncle, John Carter, a former American Civil War Confederate Army captain who died suddenly. Per Carter's instructions, the body is put in a tomb that can be unlocked only from the inside. His attorney gives Carter's personal journal for Burroughs to read. In a flashback to 1868 in the Arizona Territory, Union Colonel Powell arrests Carter with hopes that Carter will help in fighting local Apache. Carter escapes his holding cell, but fails to get far with U.S. cavalry soldiers in close pursuit. After a run-in with a band of Apaches, Carter and a wounded Powell are chased until they hide in a cave that turns out to be filled with gold. A Thurn appears in the cave at that moment and, surprised by the two men, attacks them with a knife. Carter kills him but accidentally activates the Thurn's powerful medallion and is unwittingly transported to a ruined and dying planet, Barsoom, known to Carter as Mars. Carter tries to walk but stumbles and appears to float. He spends several minutes learning how to walk in this strange new environment. The gravity on Mars is much lower than what he's accustomed to, but he doesn't know that. He makes his way to the nearby hill and finds a nest of eggs hatching green, six-limbed infants. Disturbed, he is about to leave when he notices a group of green creatures approaching. They are mounted on large beasts and armed with firearms, and when they see Carter, they open fire until one of them tells the others to stop. This tall, green alien with 4 arms lays down his sword and rifle and greets Carter. As with the Apaches, there's a language barrier, but the two manage to give their names. The green man is Tars Tarkas, the Jedak, or leader of his tribe. Tarkas knows Carter is not a local, and asks him to jump again. Carter takes the chance to jump towards Tarkas's weapons, but before he can fight, he is overpowered. Elsewhere on Barsoom, the red Martian cities of Helium and Zodanga have been at war for 1,000 years. Sabthan, Jedak of Zodanga, armed with a special weapon obtained from the Thurn leader Matai Shang, proposes a ceasefire and an end to the war by marrying the Princess of Helium, Dejah Thoris. The princess escapes and is rescued by Carter. With his ability to jump long distances, he manages to rescue the girl and starts to defend her, only for her to prove her own fighting ability. Still, Carter is able to turn the tide of the battle, but the blue helium craft crashes. After this spectacle, Tars Tarkas makes Carter his Dotar Sojat, or right arms, and gives him Dejah Thoris as a prize. Tars Tarkas's rival, Tal Haju, a warrior with a broken tusk, looks on in angry disapproval. Carter is reminded of Powell and refuses the position. But Tarkas says that if Carter rejects the offer, Tarkas would be unable to spare Dejah's life. Carter reluctantly agrees, and soon finds himself fending off everyone's inquiries about his ability. Dejah wants to learn how to jump as Carter can, but figures that the ability is likely related to Carter's different bone density, and thus it would not be a skill she or anyone else could learn. Tarkas knows that she is trying to gain a new weapon for Helium, and warns Carter against her. Carter just wants to go home. He tries describing his home to Dejah, but she thinks him either insane or a liar, because he describes an environment that hasn't existed for thousands of years. Seeing his seriousness, she guesses he is a Thurn, leading them to a discussion of astronomy and finally the realization that Carter is from Earth, which she calls Jasum, but he is currently on Mars, which she calls Barsoom. If there is indeed a way of traveling between the worlds, the Thurns will likely know the answer. Although Sola tries to stop them, Carter and Dejah Thoris enter a cave that is supposed to be a temple of the goddess and her followers, the Thurns. Dejah reads some ancient markings, but before they can proceed, the three are arrested by the Tharks for going into the temple. Tarkas helps them all escape, at great personal risk, and Carter guesses Sola is his daughter. Considering that Thark custom is to hatch their young in isolation and rear them anonymously, there had to have been plenty of lawbreaking involved. Sola, Carter, and Dejah Thoris journey to the river Is to solve the temple mystery, taking the medallion. Along the way, Sola warns Carter that Dejah Thoris is leading them astray. Confronted, she admits that they were headed for helium, and a furious Carter makes him abandon her as he realizes she may have been manipulating him to turn him into her new weapon. He ignores Dejah's pleas until she finally admits that she did have a personal interest in the battle, for she is the Helium Princess, likely to be married off to the Zodangan prince and potentially killed. Carter convinces her that he needs time, and that they should go to Is first. The river is a path for pilgrims. Those who have sinned or have lived too long follow the river to end their lives and find paradise. Sola, seeing what seems to be Thark sailing away and bodies on the ground, almost joins them until Carter stops her. Up the winding river they find an inverted pyramid structure. Carter and Dejah Thoris enter, and glowing blue graphics show the solar system. Dejah Thoris realizes the blue light is not supernatural, but generated by machines. It's the ninth ray, the same blue ray she has been researching and that the enemy had been using as a weapon. They also realize that Carter's appearance on Mars is likely due to a transmission of a copy of himself from Earth to Mars. Outside, an army of Tharks approaches, advised by Matai Shang. He is curious about the stranger who is getting involved with the wars and intends to test his ability. Carter and the two women mount up and scramble. As the hordes approach, Carter tells the others to flee over Dejah Thoris's objections. He stays back to fight the rampaging army with only Woola to help him. Killing many, he is reminded of the devastation of war and finding his dead wife and child in a burned farmhouse. Carter is eventually overcome, just as a helium battlecruiser arrives overhead to end the fight. Tardos Mors and Sab Than disembark. Sab Than offers his sword to Dejah Thoris as a sign of trust and asks her to marry him. Dejah Thoris almost kills him anyway, but stops herself and instead makes them take the wounded Carter to Zodanga to be healed. Carter awakes in a guarded room. At first, he thinks he is in helium, but the red-clothed guards laugh. As he muses on being in enemy territory, a man dressed in blue appears and tells him he is in Zodanga. The man is Kantos Khan, and he issues orders about putting Carter under higher security. Once close enough, he whispers to Carter to take him hostage, but Carter is too confused, and an exasperated Kantos pretends to be held hostage as he leads Carter away from the guards. The two jump to a nearby tower. Inside, Dejah Thoris is dressed in wedding finery. After thanking Kantos for bringing Carter to her, she dismisses everyone in the room. Again, she asks Carter to fight on her side. He refuses again, and finally she sees the wedding ring on his finger. Understanding that his heart belonged to another, but now knowing that the other woman is dead, Dejah Thoris tells him the magic words that will transport him back to Earth. Outside, Zodangan guards demand entry, but when the door opens, Carter has vanished. Dejah Thoris and the others leave, but the matron of the chamber returns to the room, then leaves again, and we see Carter is in a ceiling recess. He exits, and she uses a blue ray to immobilize him, then transforms into Matai Shang, the Thurn leader. He forces Carter to come with him and explains how the Thurns are managing the end of Mars. Caught in a wedding procession traffic jam, Matai Shang changes into a Zodangan officer and leads Carter outside. Then Shang changes into an elderly woman as they watch Dejah Thoris being paraded down a street. Almost lightly, Matai Shang tells Carter that after the marriage, Dejah Thoris and everyone else who knows about the ninth ray will be killed. Suddenly, Woola arrives in a flurry, manages to disable Shang's restraint, and Carter escapes on the light flyer. After a hair-raising chase, he crash lands close to Sola. Knowing he is unable to challenge the Zodangan military or the Thurns by himself, he decides to return to Tharkville and ask for their help. Carter and Sola arrive safely, but the Tharks throw Carter in jail, where he finds an imprisoned Tars Tarkas also in chains. Tarkas tells Carter that he had been overthrown by one-tusked Tal Haju. Tarkas is furious when he learns that Carter brought Sola back, and would have killed him were it not for the fact that he had been beaten and drastically weakened. The prisoners are then taken to a large coliseum and made to fight first one, then a pair of giant white apes. Sola causes a distraction in the stands, which allows Carter to kill first one, then the other beast. As the Tharks cheer for him, he challenges Tal Haju for the role of Jeddak. Carter beheads him with one neat stroke. Now the Jeddak of the Tharks, he has an army willing to fight for him. He leads them back to Zodanga to stop the wedding. On arrival, they find the city empty. Everyone has gone to Helium. An unimpressed Tars Tarkas slaps Carter upside the head, since there is no way they can make it to the wedding in time. Carter points to the airships, but the Tharks refuse, so he takes off by himself in a light flyer. Zodangan guards spot him as he approaches, but as he's flying a Zodangan aircraft, they assume he's part of their plan and let him pass. As the wedding ceremony is about to finish, Carter crashes in. Dejah Thoris is thrilled to see him, but it's too late as the signal has been cast. Zodangans begin attacking the Heliumites, and once again Matai Shang and his Blu-ray seem unstoppable. Suddenly, a huge light cruiser crashes in too, and the Tharks disembark to follow their leader. They join the Heliumite army and fight off the Zodangans. Matai Shang escapes, but Carter recovers the medallion. During the fight, Sabthan is killed by the blue device he so dearly loved. With the immediate threat of Zodanga gone, and now knowing where his heart is, Carter takes his wedding ring and asks Dejah to marry him. She agrees, and both Helium and Thark rejoice. That night, Carter is restless and steps out of the room. He tosses the medallion into the canyon below. As he returns to the bedchamber, the guard thanks him and, reaching out, grabs him and shifts into Matai Shang to send Carter back to the cave in Arizona. Carter awakens stiff, dusty, and bearded. The colonel is but a skeleton, and the gold and the Thurn body are gone. Carter's narrative continues as he realizes there must be other Thurns on Earth, and spends the next 10 years looking for another medallion. He appears to find something in the Orkneys. He prepares a crypt on his estate so he can return to Mars and leave his body safe on Earth. Nephew Edgar is to be entrusted with keeping him safe because it is likely that the Thurns are going to attack his body, perhaps right at the moment when Edgar is reading the journal. Horrified, Edgar runs to check the crypt, not knowing he is being followed. After a few tense seconds, he figures out the password to enter and opens the door, but the crypt is empty. A Thurn appears behind Edgar and is about to kill him, but is shot dead. Edgar turns around to see Carter outside holding a gun. Carter explains he took a drug that made it appear that he was dead, and Edgar realizes he was simply bait to draw out a Thurn and enable Carter to obtain the medallion he needs to go back to Dejah Thoris. Carter corrects him, saying that Edgar is indeed going to play a very important role, protector of Carter's body on Earth as he returns to his true home on Mars. Taking the medallion from the dead Thurn, Carter goes into the crypt, lies down, and recites the phrase to return to Barsoom. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and turn on notifications for our next video. Take care and see you next time.